kind of on a couple of other of the 80s TV shows that you guested on by you, such as Golden Girls.
That was a spin-off. That was Empty Nest. That, another disaster. My life is filled with these things. Pilots and I do not get along. I did our audition. I had to read for it. And they said, okay, you're the one. But there wasn't one smile in the room. It was the most bizarre experience. I've never had an audition like that in my whole life, where everybody after the reading said, thank you. And I said, you're welcome. Is there anything else? They said, no. I thought, oh, dear God, well, they hated this. They hated this. I went home, my husband said, and it was, I had gone through heaven and hell to audition. I was on a cruiser doing my show when this audition offer came up. And I went through the rain and sleet and snow and all kinds of stuff just to get to Hollywood, California to do this reading. Well, that's what made it so really insane. And I flew on airplanes and I took boats and I was exhausted, and I came in the next day and did this reading where everybody said, thank you. So my husband calls up. That's right, because he was still in St. Thomas where I left the ship. How did it go? I said, they hated it. He said, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I said, so am I. I said, it was just one of the most awful experiences of my life. I got the part. And I said, based on what? Is that the kind of enthusiasm I'm going to see when we do this thing? And what happened is that Susan Harris, the head writer, got frightfully ill during that 1 week we were putting the pilot together, and couldn't do rewrites, and it really, really, really needed rewrites badly. Paul Dooley was playing my husband, and I was the lady. And every day they kept changing my character to the extent that by the time we got to do it in front of an audience, I couldn't remember line one because the attitudes had changed so many times. That was the most embarrassing experience. It was so embarrassing because the audience would start to laugh. And I was trying to make light of it. And I could not remember my lines. We must have done, I would guess, about 15 takes in front of an audience, who then begins to root for you, and that makes it worse. And the actress, as you know, B, and all of them are in that scene with me, and there you can see the tension, saying, you can do this, Rita, you can do this. And nobody understands why I can't remember my lines. And it's because, and this is a peculiar actor's problem that nobody in the world but an actor can truly understand. If they keep changing your attitudes, not you, but your character's attitudes about things, you no longer know who you're playing. And if you don't know who you're playing, the lines don't come out. The line of dialogue does not come out naturally. Therefore, you forget them. That's what happens. I will never forget that as long as I live. Wow. Amazing. And, of course, what happened was that they didn't pick it up. The network didn't pick it up. It was really a very, very bad show. And the women in the show hated it. They thought it was just one piece of drivel. It was, because Susan wasn't there to fix it. The TV is all about the fixes, really. You rarely have the same script on Friday that you started out with on Monday. Well, I would guess that, let's see, I did the show with Candace on the breast cancer thing. I played her doctor. And that show changed considerably because she felt that they were being too lighthearted about it. And she was right, and they fixed that. But it was essentially still the same show. But very often with television, it's this show on Monday, and by the time you get to Friday when you're doing it in front of an audience, it's another show entirely, completely rewritten, usually for the better. But you have to be able to compartmentalize your mind in order to do series television. It's very difficult to do.
Did you find doing series television changed tremendously from the 60s through the 90s? Just from a technical point, how they were done? Or did the formula pretty much stay the same?
It stays pretty much the same. It's still a 3-camera if it's on film, or it's still, video cameras running around from set to set. It's pretty much the same. It can't change. If you're going to do it in front of an audience, it's always that formula. you don't have many choices there, many alternatives. There are very few ways to shoot it differently than they have been for years and years and years.
Do you want to talk about the Cosby Mysteries?
Yeah.
That was 1994, 1995.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a fun thing to be involved in?
It was great because Bill and I improvised constantly. I didn't have a whole lot to do in it. I was in most of the shows, but not in all of them. It was a character that Bill invented out of his head because he loves me and he wanted to work with me. That's really what it was about. So he invented this character that really had no history, nothing. We literally invented her together, he and I and the writers, the head writer David Black. And what we were beginning to do was turning into something absolutely delicious. It was going to be Mr. and Mrs. North, except they weren't married. And he was black and she was not. Because we have a superb chemistry together, Bill and I. But the network didn't want that. And I think it was the same network as Empty Nest. And they didn't want me. You know, there's something about me in television series. The NBC just wasn't. In fact, Bill said to me, "Did you ever do something mean to an executive once?" No, he meant it. And I said, "No, I don't understand. No." And I got into the show despite them. And everything we did was marvelous and very funny. The crew couldn't wait for me to come in on that 1 or 2 days a week when I come in to do some scenes with Bill, because they knew it was going to be hilarious. And the show itself didn't work. It wasn't right. It just didn't work. But I had a great time on it. Great time.
And then in the 90s, there's The Nanny, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, Larry Sanders Show.
Mm-hmm.
All fun to work on?
Larry Sanders was strange because you were hustled in and hustled out. It was so fast. My particular little bit was, really kind of brief, so it was just, before I knew it, they said, "Okay, thank you. That's Miss Moreno's just finished. Oh, okay." I said, "I am? Oh, yeah, I am. That's right." I mean, I must have had 4 lines or something. Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego was fun. It was playing a cartoon character, and that was really neat. And what was the other one you mentioned?
The Nanny?
The Nanny. Well, that was enormous fun. I didn't have much to do in it, but it was hilarious. And Fran, at the last minute, she and her husband, her husband writes it, came up with a hilarious thing, a tag for the scene. And the scene, I was her old gym teacher, and I was a mean, nasty woman, really mean. But they're reminiscing. This is the tag they wrote. She said, "Would you do this? Would you consider doing this?" And I read it, and I said, "Oh, absolutely." So the tag is that she and I finally have become friends, not that we're mature people. And she starts talking about her high school days and how she went out with this boy. And I say, "You went out with him?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Ah!" She said, "What?" I said, "A boy like that would kill your brother." And she said, "Yeah?" I said, "Yes, forget that boy and find another. One of your own kind, stick to your own kind." And the audience went bananas. It was very funny. And the publishing company who published West Side Story were very reluctant to let us do it. And then they said, "Well, we'll only do it if she does it in cadence. She can't just, do it out of rhythm." So that's how I had to do it. And she would just stick things in between, like, "A boy like that who'd kill your brother." "What?" "Get that boy and find another." "What do you mean?" "One of your own kind." "Oh."